of Wonders 4 has completed its first cycle and turned 1 year old. That time has seen 4 expansions, a ton of free gameplay additions, taking a game that was, by all accounts, pretty damn solid at launch to become the poster child of its franchise. Yet it still hangs about in the wings. It's a niche pick. It doesn't jostle with the top dogs, but after a year of improvement and content updates, I think it should absolutely be in the same conversation. Maybe you've had your eye on the game but didn't yet pull the trigger. Maybe you're looking for a change of pace from Civilization or the likes. Maybe you aren't into strategy games at all. You just want to live out some outlandish fantasy saga. Whatever your reasons for being here, by the end of this video you will have all of the info you need. What it does well, what it doesn't, and what sets it apart from the crowd. And the answer to the most important question, whether or not you should be playing it. I'll start with the positives before diving into each aspect in more detail. Let's start with the all-important question, what does the game do well? First and foremost, it gives the player a ton of customization. Its big draw is allowing you to live out whatever bizarre fantasy tropes you can cook up by providing a myriad of tools and options. Whether you want to be a ravenous insect swarm pillaging far and wide, a magic-infused dragon that hoards powerful artifacts, or a plain old adventurer king who clears the land of blights and brigands, you can approach it however you want. That to me is the defining aspect, and it's complemented by the game's other key pillars. Interesting tactical combat, a vibrant and interactive world, ongoing rewards for play, and a sense of growth in the Pantheon system. And all of these pillars have been supplemented by excellent ongoing support, both premium and free. Now, that's definitely not enough of an argument to sway you one way or another, so let's dive into each of those aspects, starting with the customization angle. At a base level, the faction creation system is great. There's so many tools at your disposal. Your core playstyle is dictated by the culture choice, which alters baseline mechanics. Your traits give bonuses in certain areas and shape what your game plan will be. What you pick nudges you towards certain goals. Clearing monster infestations might give more rewards, so you're incentivized to trudge the world like a witcher. Or you can pick traits that provide huge bonuses after capturing cities, setting you on the path to become a merciless warmonger. Each of the leader types further shapes your gameplay. Warriors excel in the fray of battle, whereas mages or eldritch sovereigns play out more tactically, weakening foes with spells in and out of combat. Once you've got an idea of the faction you want to make and customize them to look as interesting, menacing, stoic, or feathery as you like, you can lock in and set forth. But that's only the first step. You'll continue shaping your empire with every choice you make in-game. Age of Wonders has one of the most interesting approaches to research in any 4X game: tomes. You won't get every research option presented, you'll just pick a few tomes here and there, and these will essentially shape your tech tree. As you advance, they'll get increasingly more powerful. They'll provide units, spells, improvements, even new game mechanics. They'll open up playstyles and can be chosen however you want in any combination, allowing for some absurd combos. Each tome has a certain affinity, and as you lean into one area or another, you can unlock increasingly powerful passive bonuses. Some tomes might unlock enhancements, allowing you to magically augment your species, and little by little you'll transform your race from scrappy upstarts to mighty mana-infused beings. The faction you end a game with isn't the same one you start with. They might go off course from your original version, or take unexpected turns to adapt to their surroundings. Every game feels different, and a lot of that is down to the world around you. This is where Age of Wonders stands ahead of the competition. First and foremost, the game world is visually fantastic. It is vibrant, varied, and interesting. All the things a fantasy realm should be. But more importantly, it's incredibly dense. There's always something going on. Monsters roaming your borders or infestations that need clearing. There's multiple layers to explore, conquer and tame, and points of interest and resources to control. Free cities dot the map and you can befriend or befoul them, depending on your playstyle. And there's always something ticking away. Quests to undertake, events unfolding, bounties to fulfill. Exploration is one of the fundamental pillars in these types of games, but in most cases, that's usually reserved for the early game. Here, it is important throughout. The heroes that represent your empire will travel the world with their armies, conquering, discovering, and spelunking into ancient wonders. You'll find or craft gear for them, level them up, and specialize them. It's not a game where you can be passive or stationary. You always have to be on the move and discovering. Each realm has different traits that alter various aspects. The wildlife, the climate, the layout, the free cities. Same as how you shape your faction, you can adjust the world around you to be as bountiful or as barren as you wish. Or you can let it reveal its secrets bit by bit. The most recent update introduced Unknown Realms, a world with random modifiers that are revealed as games progress. This is just a great addition, plunging you into a world sight unseen. Survival is reserved for those who adapt. The third core pillar that sets Age of Wonders 4 apart is warfare. It is a massive part of the game. Whether you are clearing the wilds of monsters or wailing on your weird-looking neighbor, combat is unavoidable. You can think of it as a war game wearing the skin of a 4X. Yes, you can skip every battle and auto-resolve your way through it, but to really see the true depth of the game, you have to be ready to lead your armies yourself. To tell you the truth, I wasn't a fan of the tactical combat when I started. I thought it slowed down the game and it felt repetitive. But the more I played, the more I started to appreciate and then enjoy it. All those choices you make for your faction, the spells you unlock, the new units you train, the tentacles you grow, they all come to life here. And likewise, there are a ton of ways to approach battle, and how you design your people will alter your game plan. You might look to swarm and overwhelm with sheer manpower, or hold back to buff and heal. You can bait enemies before throwing down powerful spells, or disrupt the battlefield with summons. Utilize different damage types, synergize with units unlocked through tomes, or even shatter the opposing army's resolve and push them to surrender. There's no wrong way, but dozens of right ones. There is a nuance and a satisfaction to it, and as a match progresses, battles will get increasingly more dramatic. Units will get stronger, have greater powers, and outlandish magical beings will become commonplace. Again, if you're not bothered with this angle, you can auto-resolve and skip. But it is interesting to see how the world and your people are evolving by getting stuck into a battle here and there. So all those things are aspects that the game does well, and in some cases better than other 4X games you might have played. The next thing is a bit more unconventional. The game's Pantheon system, essentially a form of meta progression. Now, I see this as a way to counter one of the age-old bad habits of 4X players, not finishing games. I'm guilty of it, you're guilty of it. We all get to that point, feel the allure of a new game, and restart. But here you are rewarded the longer you play a game. You don't have to finish, but once you reach the point of knowing you're done, you surrender. Then you'll gain experience based on what you accomplished, and you can use that to unlock goodies. These can be cosmetic items for your leaders, new weapon variants, or even traits to customize future factions with, or volatile map scenarios to undertake. If you do see a game through and win, you can take your victorious leader and ascend them. Have them join your pantheon of the gods. Like a VIP club where you can stop by and reflect on past conquests. Once they're here though, their story isn't over. They might pop up in future games and travel through the void to help you in your cause. A new story for an old flame. This progression and pantheon angle is not a selling point for the game by any stretch, but I do think it's very neat. Means you're always unlocking things, growing a collection as you play, and it gives you something worthwhile for actually completing a game. Granted, even with this incentive, I still don't finish 99% of my games, but these three here are testaments to the 1% of the time I actually stuck it out. Yes, I know I'm not the best at following through, but thankfully, the devs don't suffer that problem. They've been on top of improving and updating the game since its launch just over a year ago. I have to give credit where it is due. They've introduced some great systems to the game which they definitely could have locked behind an expansion paywall. These aren't little things either. There have been culture reworks making them more interesting and new gameplay features like war bounties and the item forge. The base game launched in a good place, but after a year of updates and content additions, it has been elevated. If you try it now, you will be playing a better version of the game, though there are paid additions to consider if you want a bit more. The first season consisted of 4 expansions of various sizes, and each adds new options, tomes, races, mechanics, just more tools to play with. Dragon Dawn allows you to lead your empire as a lumbering dragon. You will hoard magical items and loom over the battlefield as dragons tend to do. Empires and Ashes adds the Reaver culture, an aggressive playstyle that revolves around bullying players and city-states alike. Primal Fury adds another new culture, revolving around communing with your chosen spirit and terraforming the world around you. Most recently, there's Eldritch Realms, the final act of the season pass that flips the game on its head. The Elder Sovereign ruler types are imposing and slightly gross beings of tremendous power that can capture and sacrifice thralls to fuel their twisted incantations. It's a really fun ruler type, and the other additions to the game are interesting. A new map layer to explore, random global events, mid-game crises for added pressure, and tomes and units that utilize the awesome power of the tentacle. It's still early days on the expansion, but I feel like this adds the most and definitely takes the sharpest step in a different direction to the base game. So that's all the positives. Important info, extra appendages, all that jazz. There are also areas where the game is lacking. These might be things you can overlook, or they might be deal breakers. The important thing is that you know that they are factors. So first, my biggest gripe with the game is the AI. If you get frustrated at the computer cheating and conjuring armies out of thin air, you'll probably want to hear me out. It's a whole thing here. You can seemingly conquer an enemy army and march on their capital, but they will proceed to pull legions out of nowhere and throw them in your direction. From my experience, it's not so much a problem on the normal difficulty, but as you dial things up, the AI doesn't seem to play any better, they just play with more. The other issue I have with the game is diplomacy, or more accurately, the lack of. It exists as a system, but there isn't really any nuance to it. I have the exact same issues with Civilization. It's just a screen with some options, and the AI acts rashly. They'll compliment you one turn and then denounce you the next. The same thing can be said for trade. The systems are there, but they're very shallow. Something that is lacking altogether is any sort of subterfuge, cloak and dagger type system. I think it would be a perfect fit for the game, and I am kind of surprised it's not a feature. But then again, diplomacy, trade, espionage, they all go hand in hand. That for me is the game's biggest blind spot, and somewhere I would love to see improvement in the future. But those negatives don't tip the scales too much. At its core, it is a fantastic 4X game. The customization and tools at your disposal are many, and the warfare is a big step ahead of the rest of the genre. Despite having a lot of interlocking systems, it isn't that hard a game to play. I would put it in line with Civilization in terms of learning curve, and that's always my go-to recommendation for people trying to get into the genre. Am I saying that you should skip Civ and play Age of Wonders instead? Well, if you prefer fantasy over history, absolutely. When the game came out, it did fall a bit short of the big dogs in the genre, but after a year of development, it's definitely entered that upper tier, on par with Civ and Old World in my humble opinion. So if your question is, should I play Age of Wonders 4 if I like 4X games? My answer is yes. It's one of the best games in the space. If you like the fantasy angle but find the genre a bit intimidating, it's still worth it. It looks overwhelming, but once you get into the swing of things, you'll find it very streamlined. And there's plenty of story missions and scenarios tailored towards that onboarding process. And while their intended season of content and expansions may be over, there is more to look forward to. The developers have stated the journey will continue with more free and paid content. What that might be, I don't know yet. But given how they pushed the boat out with Eldritch Realms, I would not be surprised if they went a bit wild with it. I get the feeling they've been testing the water with some concepts like world events and crises, so I would not be surprised if they went further with those angles in the future. I have my own personal wish list. As mentioned earlier, I would love to see diplomacy and trade expanded upon, and some sort of espionage system introduced. Would also love to see the Galactic Empire mode from Planetfall reworked and introduced. They've expanded the game an awful lot over the past 12 months, and if there's 12 more months of that momentum, well, that is an exciting prospect for sure. If you are already a player and have some predictions for the future, let me know in the comments. Likewise, if you've come here to work out whether Age of Wonders is the right game for you, let me know how you currently stand. Any questions or concerns, just let me know and I'll get back to you on them. Or if there's another game in the genre you're on the fence on and need it summarized and neatly packaged, let me know. I have spent way too much of my life playing these sorts of games, and it is time I used that knowledge for something worthwhile. But that is all for now. Please like, subscribe, and comment away down there, and I will catch you another time.